Hello, and welcome to this episode of Spotlight on the Divorce Expert. And today we're going to talk all about how sometimes women in particular, although I'm sure it happens to men as well, can find themselves dealing with procrastination, self-sabotage, and even feelings of imposter syndrome, particularly after big life transitions like divorce. So I want to introduce you to my guest, Kathleen Maxwell. She is a coach who helps her clients through an emotional release process that results in breakthroughs that really last. She helps people stop second guessing themselves and start leading the lives that they were always meant to lead. And divorce is a great transition to start creating the life that you want to live. So, Kathleen, welcome.
I'm so happy to be here, Marty. Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, and I'm really happy to have you here too, because I think this whole idea of recreate or not recreating but creating this positive life, this positive space, even in light of something that's a little bit challenging like a divorce, or maybe a lot challenging like a divorce, is something that I think is the positive side that can come out of a divorce. So, Kathleen, before we get into that, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself and why this is now your area of focus.
Well, like many of the people that are listening, I've actually been through the divorce process. I've been through the divorce process 3 times. I've I foolishly married one man twice, but it's still I had to go through all the legal falderall 3 times. And what I found was that I needed to hold on to myself and my identity and really keep my priorities as the focus, as opposed to constantly serving someone else's priorities. And that led me to learning how to have some breakthroughs so that I could see my own self-worth. And now that's what I help other people do as well, because we all have talents and gifts and things in our lives that deserve to be celebrated and deserve to be supported.
Thank you for saying that. And I think, a lot of times, I think as women, I think it's changing a little bit. Younger generation, not so much, but my generation for sure. Women were just supposed to do. Like you were just supposed to put your head down, put everybody in front of you. The kids came first, the spouse came first, the spouse's career came first, the kids, after school activities came first. And there's nothing wrong with prioritizing other people. But when it gets to the point that you're just running on empty all of like from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed, and even sleep isn't even restful anymore, it becomes hard to all of a sudden start seeing yourself as a priority.
Absolutely. And that's where these voices in your head kind of come in. There's always this voice of the inner critic telling you, you shouldn't rest now. You should make sure that the lunches are packed. Or how come you can't go to bed yet? The laundry hasn't been folded. Or, all of those household tasks, they're important. But what we forget sometimes is that if we bring other people in to work on them with us, then we can get further along and not be so tired.
Yeah. And the other thing that I hear a lot from the women that I work with, because most of my divorce clients are pretty high achieving, as I'm sure your clients are. And it's not just that they're working at the home and raising the kids. It's that they're running a business, or they're, like C-suite professionals, or they're managerial positions, or they have jobs that have a lot of responsibility. So it's like they've got literally 2 full-time jobs in just the house and the business. And then if they've got kids, they've got 3 full-time jobs. And it almost feels, a lot of my people, it almost feels guilty to even ask the spouse to help, or to say, I need a nanny, or I need a house cleaner, or I need this. Why is that so hard for people to do? Women in particular.
Well, I think we want to always feel like we're strong and that we can do all of the things that our mothers did and do them as well or better. There's an inner competition with your mom. And my mom actually was a working mother as well. And I saw the strain that it put on her, but I didn't catch on that as a breadwinner that I could also ask that we hire some help. It
Yeah.
didn't even occur to me that that was an option. And I think that would be, if I could get people to believe one thing, it's that your time is worth, you deserve to have spare time and happy, to read a book or to take a nap or whatever. If you run ragged, then you're not effective anymore. So it's really worth it to have somebody come in, even if it's twice a month, to do some of the heavy cleaning in the house so that you don't have to do everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is that sense of, be careful what you wish for. Women fought so hard to get equality, and what they really got was equality plus everything they were already dealing with before. No, that's not true. Some men are very helpful around the house, so I think, and that's where I think the younger generation is doing a better job. Like I think dads are more active in in all aspects of childcare and home care, and they don't just mow the lawns on Saturday before the game kind of thing. They're really more participatory in the whole family. So, Kathleen,
Yes.
what do the clients that you work with typically come to you? Like, what are they complaining about, or what do they why do they seek you out?
Well, a lot of times people are sad or are depressed and they don't know why. They don't have a reason. They don't, why, I've got a good job, I've got a good family, I've got lots of responsibility, but they feel just sort of weighed down. And what I do is I help people to release some of the residual. There's five emotions that people hang on to: sadness and anger and shame, guilt, frustration. You hold on to those things and it sort of turns the lights down in your life. So what I do is I have a way to release those feelings so that you can feel happy
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. And you're right, because we accumulate them. They don't, they keep accumulating as we go through life. Now you have a really interesting perspective about the four voices. One leads, three distract. Can you talk a little bit about those voices? I know you talked about the inner critic. What are the other
Right.
voices that we might be hearing?
Well, there's also the inner child, and the inner child just wants to be loved. And so if you ask me, oh, could you pick up my kids after school for me? Or could you teach Sunday school this week? Or could you? The inner child wants to be loved, and the inner child says yes to everything and just winds up making you super busy and super tired. And you can say no, and people will still like you, I promise. The other
Yes.
voice that you often hear is your inner ego. And the inner ego is like, stand up straight, smile, make sure you have good eye contact. Come on, you can engage, you can engage. And they're like pushing, pushing, pushing. Some people even call it the inner bully because it's always pushing you to be better, be better, be better. And sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't.
Yeah. And knowing when that bully is exceeding where your comfort zone lies, even, I think is probably really important for people.
Absolutely. So, one of the techniques that I give people is to pay attention to the voices that they're hearing and notice, are these voices reminding you of anybody? Is it the critical teacher you had, or maybe it's your mom, or maybe it's your ex-spouse who always said these mean things? And your mind just replays them and replays them. And when you notice, oh, well, not doing all I could do. Okay, yeah, I've heard that before. You make a little check on the paper, and that way you acknowledge it and it shuts the sound down. And yep, yeah, I could be neater. Okay, great. It would be nice if the house was more picked up. Yep, I've heard that before. Just sort of acknowledge it and notice how often you're getting these voices and know that they aren't you. These are pre-recorded voices, and you can turn them down or you can turn them off, or even better, give them another job. Like, for example, your inner critic. You can say, okay, inner critic, I'm writing an important assignment for work. I want you to make sure that all the punctuation is correct and all the spelling is perfect. And until I'm working on that, you can feel free to go take a nap or have a good time. And when you give the inner critic a job, then they don't talk to you so much. So redirect them just as you would a child that's driving you crazy. Why don't you go play outside now, dear?
Right. Oh, I love that idea. I love that idea. And what about what's the one helpful voice in your head that's good for you to listen to?
Yes, we all have intuition or our wise voice. And our wise voice is not loud, and it's not pushy, and it's not critical. And it'll say things like, maybe you want to turn here, or maybe you would like to wear the yellow shirt today because you look so beautiful in yellow. Or maybe you should give your mom a call or call your friend or whatever. You haven't heard from them in a while. All of these helpful ideas that benefit you are coming from your intuition. And again, when you start noticing this helpful voice, then you can give it more time and more attention, and maybe even turn the volume up on that helpful voice just a little bit so that you can benefit from all of the good ideas that you actually have. That's
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that idea. And I've heard so many stories of people who have sat down and talked to me and said, I was going to get on this plane. And then my intuition just said, take another flight, book your flight the next day. And sure enough, and we've all heard that something happens to the plane. But I've even had people who said, well, we were going to buy this house and we decided not to. And then 2 years later, a tornado comes through and took that house right out. Like intuition is one of those things, right? That it's so nebulous. And some people really believe in it, and some people think it's just a bunch of hooey. And there's kind of no intermediary on there. It's either all or one way.
Well, again, if you don't know if your intuition is helpful, start writing down what the intuition says. You don't have to follow the advice, but you'll start to see a pattern and you'll be able to determine, does your intuition have a good idea? And then you'll start saying, I wonder why I didn't listen to that sooner.
Yeah.
Because once you start seeing that it is on your side and it does have good input, you do better when you listen to your intuition. Then it feels good. But sometimes you need the proof. So go
Yeah.
ahead and give yourself the proof.
I
What do you
think
have to lose?
that's a fantastic idea. If you're on the fence, or you're, kind of maybe to the, well, I don't believe in intuition, maybe start writing that. So let me ask you, how let's say I'm a person who says, I don't hear voice. I just I don't hear any helpful voices. All I'm hearing is the bully and the critic and the person that's saying I can't do this. How do you start maybe opening up? I'm sure that's something you work with your clients on, is how do you open yourself up maybe for more of hearing that quieter voice that's there to help you?
Well, as I was saying, sometimes just start noting down all the voices or all the ideas that you hear going through your head and see if you can label them. Maybe it's coming from Mrs. Smith, your fourth grade teacher, who was never happy with what you did. Or maybe it's coming from that PE coach that always said, run faster, you look like a duck the way you run, or what. These voices that you hear were put into your head at an emotional time in your life. And if you can at least start identifying and what was that person saying and what was the thing that happened. I mean, it can happen for negative reasons or positive reasons. I have a dog and I was taking him for a walk. And one day we walked by a bush and somebody had actually dropped an apple pie in the bush. And my dog was very excited and he ate some of the apple pie before I could drag him away. Well, of course, the next time we walked by that bush, he had to look at it very carefully. And the next time we had to look at the bush very carefully because he knew that that bush could make a pie. Well, sometimes you have an event that happens and you're criticized and you expect to be criticized every time you go up in front of a crowd to speak. Is that a pie bush or is that really what's going on? So pay attention. Go ahead and speak and then notice, did people like me? Did I get positive questions? Did I feel like I was in charge of the situation? Just kind of notice the things that you're afraid of and what's triggering you, because it might be something from yesterday, or it could have been something from when you were 10. And
Yeah.
you don't need to carry, it's like paying for a burglar alarm on a house you don't live in anymore. We need to disconnect some of these warnings that are always going off. And again, that's one of the things that I do is I help disconnect those warnings so that you can focus on the things that matter today.
Yeah. Oh, that's a real clear image. I mean, I can just hear that, like paying for a burglar alarm on a house you don't own. Yeah, I think that really makes sense. Now, I know you deal with a lot of people who are dealing with imposter syndrome, and I think this comes up in a lot of people who are going through divorce, who are then now a single person and kind of trying to fake it till they make it, which I don't like that term, by the way, but anyhow, fake it till they make it being single and comfortable being single. And also people who may have been out of the workplace for a while, who are now returning to a full or a part-time job. All of these things can be part of this. So what do you do about this imposter syndrome? Because that's a real thing that people go through.
Sure. So the first thing is to recognize that this idea is coming up not to hobble you or shut you down, but the idea is to protect you. And, it's just like maybe if you ever lived in a cold place, I grew up in Colorado. Every time I was at the door, my mom said, take a jacket. Do you have a jacket? Do you have a sweater? Just notice that the jacket, the sweater, whatever, it's meant to be a helpful impulse. And you can say, yes, I am going out where it's cold, or it might be cold. Even though it's like 95 degrees, I don't think I need a jacket today, Mom. Just, acknowledge, okay, this voice is trying to warn me. It might not be warning me about something that's current. So, be a little bit playful with the voice. Well, that jacket might be a good idea if it was 40 below, but right now it's 92. I don't need a jacket. You can joke with the voice. You cannot take it so seriously. Just laugh at some of the suggestions. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. I did one time fall down. The heel broke on my shoe, and I did one time fall down the steps. Yes, I'll make sure I'm wearing good shoes this time, and I've got it covered. And just acknowledge yourself for the things that you have done right.
Yeah.
And sometimes even at the end of the day, you can write down a little success log. I made it to work on time. I was able to solve that problem. I was able to refill the paper in the copy machine, and the copy machine still worked. I mean, even the little tiniest things, and you'll
Right.
start to see that. Well, there I had 50 tasks today, and I did 48 of them absolutely perfectly. One I could have done a little better, and one I goofed. And give yourself a break.
Yeah.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Yes.
It's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes are part of the learning process. And just say, tomorrow, I won't try, I'll make sure that I take the coffee grounds out before I try to make a new pot of coffee. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to berate yourself or anything. You can just say, tomorrow, I'm going to do it right.
Yeah.
And let go of the mistake. It's okay. Learn from it and then let it go. You don't need to dwell on it. You're
Yeah.
not foolish because you did made a simple mistake and you weren't paying attention. You'll just pay attention more tomorrow.
Yeah, I like that. Take a lesson from it rather than just sitting there and beating yourself up and berating yourself over and over about it. I think that a lot of times you can address a little bit of this. Like I think specifically of people that are, they go to bed at night and all they can think of is all the ways they're going to mess up the next day. That's that's fear of the future. It's got nothing to do with reality. It's a totally made up story. So I
That's
like
right.
the idea of, okay, listening to all that and then writing the opposite story. Just telling yourself a story of, I get up in the morning, I get up the first time the alarm goes off, I have a wonderful shower, my coffee is perfect. There's no traffic. I get to work early. So you can create that good story too. You don't have to listen to that fear-based story.
Absolutely. I had a teacher once who said worry is a misuse of visionary capacity. So if you visualize positive things, if you visualize success, you, you have a 50-50 chance, but at least you're planning to do it right instead of planning to have a miserable day, planning to be late, planning to Oh, get stuck in traffic again, planning to have the boss yell at you. No, like you said, plan to wake up the first time the alarm rings, take your shower, and go off to work and be successful.
Yeah,
You can do that. It's called scripting. It's another excellent tool as you start writing down what it is you want.
right.
And what you focus on is what happens.
Yeah. And the same way, so that's a big picture a whole day. But let's say you're going to have a difficult conversation, maybe with your kids or your ex or your current spouse or whatever. If you go in there and think this is going to be a disaster, everybody's going to get mad, there's going to be screaming, yelling, and shouting, and nothing's going to get accomplished, I guarantee you that is exactly the way that conversation is going to go. Whereas if you go in and say, there's a lot of opportunities, I'm going to listen, I'm going to respond rather than react, you're going to have a completely different conversation. Even if everybody else keeps doing whatever they're going to do, you're going to come out of that way better. So, Kathleen, this has been an amazing, just a really good, practical conversation about dealing with some of these things that we all deal with in our life. Everybody does. Even, even the most accomplished people deal with these kind of things. So you have a gift for people. Is that right, Kathleen?
I do. It's called the Inner Voice Shift. It's a PDF, not too long, lots of pictures and some ideas on how you can work with the different voices to make them your friend instead of your antagonist. So, yeah, it's free for everybody. You get it right away. I would love for people to take advantage of it.
Yes, and I'm going to make sure that information gets in the show notes. So if you want to grab Kathleen's gift, and I highly recommend you do, just scroll down the page and you're going to find it in the show notes there. Before we get off the call, though, Kathleen, what is the best way if people do want to find out more about you, what you do, or maybe reach out and work with you? What's the best way to do that?
Um, I'll definitely give you my email. You can go to Kathleen Maxwell, Kathleen at yoursuccesscoachkathleen.com, and you can sign up for a free 15-minute conversation there. And I'm happy to talk to anybody and help you sort out any problem. We can
Wonderful.
we can do it. We can
Yes.
make a difference,
We
and it's free. So
yes.
please call me. I'd love to talk
Okay.
to you.
That is fantastic. And again, I'll make sure all of that is in the show notes because I know if you're busy doing things, it's hard to write this
Right.
stuff down. So it'll all be in the show notes. And Kathleen, thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom and your humor about this because I think, and some of those visuals you gave, boy, they're stuck in my head now. I'm going to remember those for a long time. So I really appreciate that.
Look for the pie bush.
Yes, I'm going to be looking for the pie bush. Thank you so much, Kathleen. And thank you, everybody, for listening in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment.